I am Abbas Maleki. I am Wilhelm Fellow at Center for International Studies at MIT. I am Associate Professor of Sharif University of Technology in Iran. On Iran-US relations, it is very important to say that after US-Iraq war in 1991 and collapse of Soviet Union in 92, United States shifted its policy against Iran in different types. Once American strategy was dual containment, then ILSA, Iran-Libya Sanction Act in 1996, rogue states during President Bush, axis of evils, and nuclear pariah, and recently a lot of sanctions. But I think it is not only the uh, dimension of Iran-US relations. At the same time, United States and Iran have a common interest, especially common interest in Persian Gulf, Central Asia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. I think the mutual interest and common interest of United States and Iran would be drug trafficking, which is very important for Iran. Many Iranian military sectors, they are engaged in this case to prevent it, and some of them, they have been killed. Terrorism, despite of all of accusations about Iran Al-Qaeda relations, really Al-Qaeda, the first statement of Al-Qaeda was against Iran because it is a Shiite country, and Al-Qaeda, one of the objective of Al-Qaeda is elimination of Shiism in the world, and other objectives which you know better. Anyhow, Iran and United States, they can share their interest against terrorism, especially Al-Qaeda, and also raising again of Taliban in Afghanistan would be a threat for Iran as United States. And also the radicalism in Iraq, the Abbas party, Saddam Hussein, they were the main threats over Iran and also United States in the past and even now. And the case of energy security also is very important for two countries. The flow of oil from Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz passes 16 million barrel per day, or 40% of the oil flow all over the world. And the country which dominates Strait of Hormuz is Iran. Iran guarantees flow of oil from Strait of Hormuz and Persian Gulf. And the last point is democratization in Middle East, Arab Spring and something like that. I think Iran society has examined these issues in 1979 and after that. And Iran, despite of all of critics over the government, the basis of Iranian government is a democratic country with different different participation of people, different parliamentary election, presidential election, city councils, and other cases. The nuclear talks is very important between United States and Iran. I think Iran is ready to follow the talks with P5. It means permanent members of United Nations plus Germany, and Iran has sent a letter to Mrs. Ashton, the foreign secretary of the European Union. Iran is ready to work with United States about the security in Persian Gulf, security in Iraq, in Afghanistan, which they are very pivotal for Iran. A lot of American soldiers, they are in Middle East now, and I think the best way is to look at a collective security for Persian Gulf. Collective security means some guarantees from the countries around of Persian Gulf on the case of the non-aggression Iran proposes non-aggression act, recognition of the borders as a status quo, something like that. I think it is very important for both sides to do that. And the final point is that Iran is ready to have a rapprochement with the United States in the case of equality and the parity. It is very important. You know, the history of United States in Iran shows that in some decades, United States was the country which ordered, and Iran's government was rentier state. But now Iranians, after revolution, they feel the best way is to have equal rights for negotiations and talking about many issues as I raised. The last point is that after the issues which raised here recently, the case of assassination of Iranian scientists in Iran, Stuxnet, something like that, I think the best way, it is my opinion that the best way would be something, some talk or negotiation with mediation of United Nations Secretary General and maybe Security Council, because Iran has many experiments and many results from the negotiation with Secretary General of United Nations and Security Council in the past. The most important one is the negotiation over ending Iran-Iraq war, which was started in 1980 and lasted in 1988. At 3 years of the end of war, Iranian diplomats, they had consultations, negotiation over the resolution 598 with Secretary General and his deputies and his representatives, and also representatives from different countries, especially permanent members of Security Council. It was so successful, and during that negotiations, the world understood that Saddam Hussein had attacked to Iran, and then Saddam Hussein, after the end of war, attacked to Kuwait in 1990, and you remember the US-Iraq war in 1991 and 2003. How is future? I am optimistic about future. Really, war is not apocalyptical. I think it is not toward the Iranian interest to tolerate another war after Iraq-Iran war, and it is not toward the American interest, especially in the year of election. I think it is not so rational to talk about war between United States and Iran. But the most important thing is that maybe some other players like Israel, they can do something provocative issues which would be accidental war between these two countries. I think it is also possible to prevent it, as Iranian side they are doing. They are very alert about any accident in Persian Gulf and rescue issues. And recently, American ships, they rescued some Iranian boats, and Iranian side thanked the American side. Iranians, they are living peacefully now, 75 million populations, and I was in Iran 3 weeks ago. Really, they are thinking only about the future of their families, their lives, their universities, wedding, restaurants, all of issues which is in normal societies. And the last point is, if war imposes to Iran, it would be, I want to say, ironically, the Iranians, they don't separate from Iranian government. They would go around flag and they would support the government like other countries, because war from outside, it would be a nationalistic impact inside of the country. Thank you very much.